back everyone. We've played a few more turns since the last video that I recorded, so I thought I'd come back to you. Just showing the Prussian line there, backed by the reserves. The gun battery, pretty much artillery assault for the last 10 turns. Caissons, Prussian landwehr, they've got 8 casualties. They've taken some fire from the French artillery. Then we've got the Prussian landwehr, which has reconvened to the hill as it waits for the onslaught of the French columns, which I don't think are going to come out too quickly because they're a little scared of this small Prussian dragoon regiment sitting here. What we have had is, though, the French artillery is back in action. It's on 9 casualties, so there's not much left of it. We did make a slight faux pas in the last few turns when the Prussian landwehr actually got into contact with them. We fought a melee, forcing the artillery to retreat, which actually we did find later would actually cause them to disperse. So we've let them continue. We've learnt from our mistake, so we have certainly put some more fire into them from the Prussian artillery. So much so, over time, the French now have no caissons left to play for the remainder of the game. Kind of sad for them, but good for us. We've still got 4 of ours. We've used 2 ourselves, but the Prussian division is unscathed. And as you can see here, this is the French Young Guard, which, if you watch the other videos, was originally based around here. It's used a forwards order to race across the table and get behind this hill here, facing off the Prussians. They're not quite willing to come over. If they did, they would probably find themselves under fire from that battery. You can see in the screen there now, which they're not quite willing to do at this point in time. What we have had, though, is the French finally opted to start being a little more aggressive. As you probably saw in the last videos, they went very defensive in their initial setup, and we had lots of discussion just amongst the group. They have decided to actually grow a pair, and they have actually attacked one of their objectives finally, and they have actually taken it. So we've recently just fought this combat. So this is the Young Guard Brigade. They have come forward against the Allied reserves. As you can see, the Allied reserves are looking pretty hesitant and unformed. What had occurred was the French batteries sitting over here, and I'll zoom in nice and slowly so you can get an idea. There they are. French batteries had been putting fire. They tried a couple of shots into the town, didn't do anything. French became a little disheartened about that. But they opted, there was a Allied line battalion here in column. It had 4 casualties, so he punished it with both batteries. He rolled very well. He caused another 4 casualties and a discipline test. The discipline test was snake eyes, basically causing the Allied battalion to retreat. So, based on the retreat move, it forced it back the initial 10 centimetres. There were no friends that it could actually get behind at all within 5 centimetres of that initial cast, and there was nothing. As you can see, it's very vacant in this period here. This unit was not here, it was actually forward. So it had come back into here. There was no friends within support distance, so we have dispersed it, which has caused this brigade to falter, and that falter happened just after that melee. And we did note that falter doesn't really harm you in a melee, except you can't reinforce, which we found out during the melee phase here, when the French grenadiers, because it's their rating versus the reserves, attacked. We actually had a drawn combat in the first round. Both players grabbed their D6 and then revealed. Both revealed a 6. So we were going to go to a second round. The French had a veteran, full strength, in good order, Young Guard battalion. The French had, sorry, not the French, I'll take it back, the Allies had another reservist battalion to throw in. At that point, when we were scrolling through the rule book, we found that because they were faltering, they could not reinforce, which changed the dynamic of the combat. Two versus 1, 11 dice to 4. So we sat back and said, look, let's just reevaluate that. Now we know what we're doing. We gave the Allied player the option to continue fighting or change his dice roll. He did change his dice roll. He withdrew from the town, ceding the objective to the French at this point in time. The French battalion is unformed, but there is nothing really here that can actually get in unless this battalion here attacks. But what we have to the front here is 2 more Young Guard battalions, and they've taken a bit of casualties. This is 5 and 2, but veterans and grenadiers again. I suspect what we'll see in the next coming turn is this French unit will actually attempt to charge that one, to pin it. Now the option of course here with the supports is they can have supporting fire into them or actually get the re-roll. But what we have back here is French Hussar regiment. I fully expect them to come through and charge this battalion. That could make life a little interesting for the Allies. He will have that support there for the melee against the Guard. That is a veteran Young Guard versus line. So again, slightly more in his favour, but still, these are full strength units. These are unscathed. The French have been pushing hard, as you can see. If you watch the other videos, you'll see they have managed to push the Allies right back. They're a little mess. We've got 9 casualties here, 4 casualties here. We've got one, they were on fire discipline, another unformed with fire discipline, another one with 6. These 2 here are both in square. They have been charged multiple times by the cavalry, and each time they've managed to form a square. Even with these guys unformed, they managed to get into square. So he's pinned them. Again, I would fully expect this fresh battalion here, and as you can see, we've actually played the start of the next turn. So you can see by the markers, we have a glory, an infantry assault, and he put the brigade order on. So this battalion here is going to charge the square. The cavalry is keeping them in check. We'll get a firefight here, I expect, because he's on fire discipline, which gives the French the advantage. The French to the rear here are very, very hurt. This battalion here is on 11 casualties. They are fresh, but he needs to get them up. The gun battery to the rear needs to limber and start moving down the side here. If you watch the previous, you'll see the Allies did have a 12-pounder battery situated on this hill. It is now situated back here. He opted to bug it out. The Hussar Brigade is finally in a position where it's got a gap to get through, but he is probably one move from actually getting in a position where he can actually engage anything. He really put himself in a precarious position. He congested himself. He got the cavalry right into the rear of his infantry. It gave him no room to manoeuvre, and he's probably, I think there's about 23 casualties across this one brigade. It's starting to get worn down. Whereas over here, we're still reasonably fresh. This is the other objective, this big hill. Currently, there are 4 formed Allied units on the hill. The French just need to get them off. So this attack here becomes very important for the French. If they do this, and they can make this falter, and if they can force the Allies to actually get a retreat, because he's been very good with his dice, then they can probably take that hill. I think they may run out of steam in time, but having the Allies attempt to retake the town with low quality troops against solid troops is going to be difficult. The French artillery over here will continue to probably pound this area, particularly this gun battery, and any infantry it can see. but again, they will suffer a masking effect once they come around. The issue for the French here is these two battalions are attached to this brigadier, who also is commanding the gun batteries and these two battalions here. This brigade is very spaced out. Talked about it last night. He really needs to get them over here. It's not really worth them being such. They're too separated across the battlefield. The Young Guard may attack. They're grenadiers. Their rating against Prussian line. Be an interesting fight, no doubt. The question is he willing to come over the hill and have a go? I'm certainly not willing to go over the hill, faced with those two batteries there. But so far, the Prussians haven't done a whole lot. We're in very good defensive positions. We've really got to rely on our friends over on the left flank to hold that hill. We've got plenty of stuff here, no doubt. He's only got one. French only have one brigade. He is fighting two infantry brigades. His cavalry brigade, still pretty good, but we have the quality here. These are two veteran hussar regiments and a line regiment versus probably his best is his lancers, which I believe are grenadiers. Everything else is line campaign. So we do have the advantage when it comes to the cavalry quality. It will be a tough fight. I think it's still in the balance. It's going to come down to how well these attacks go here for the French and over there for the French. Though the French plate has sort of come up en masse, he hasn't really softened the Allies up in any way, shape or form. The melees have been highly beneficial to him. He's certainly soaked up. The Allied player has had multiple fire disciplines. He cannot turn a trick. He really could have hurt them immensely, but he has rolled exceedingly poor on his musketry fire, which has probably allowed the French the opportunity to continue to come forward. So we'll see if they get to the other area. And I'll just want to zoom in on these lovely buildings, mostly because they're mine. Here we go. So these are my latest. I've just printed these and spent some time painting them. I will admit, painting that style of house is like, wow, that takes a lot of time. So that's a 3D print. I do produce these occasionally. I do sell them too, since I have the licenses to do so. We did enjoy a lovely red wine last night. I'll bring that. It's actually called the Brigadier, which we thought was very apt for our little gut, which is locally produced here in the valley. But I think we'll see what happens in the next few turns. It's going to get really interesting, so I'm just going to walk you around to the French side so you can get an idea of what the battlefield looks like from their perspective. So there's the Young Guard. This battery here, which I'm referring to with the 9 casualty, is attached to the Young Guard Brigade. So I am hopefully, I haven't rolled particularly well with my artillery assaults. I'm hopefully going to knock that off in the next turn. I believe the French are going to attempt to intercede by pushing this battalion and injecting it into this zone here. Totally okay with that. More than happy to start peppering the infantry, but we'll see what happens. It's going to churn up a lot of his ADCs. He has, as you can see, he has put a lot of effort into this flank. He's really trying to chew through the Russians. Even though they do look like Prussians, they're Russians. So there's a Russian division sitting there. All our Russians are still on the painting trays. So we're looking forward to the next round, which will be in a week. And we'll see what occurs, and I'll put another video up at the end of that. But again, thanks for watching, and we'll see what occurs. Cheers.